And I'll never forget that when I knew that the tide had changed I remember him looking at me and he's like, you know what, TJ, you're right, man. He's like, this is my fault. This is my fault. You've given me so many opportunities and this is on me. And he's like, I deserve every part of this. The next part is what he said he's like, I have so much respect for you.
Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you are in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the three pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guest is TJ O'Connor, General Manager of Cemex. TJ has various roles throughout his career, including tile contractor, operations manager, plant manager, area manager, materials management, and human resources. Hint, hint, you may hear a hair about management today, just based on all of your titles that you've held. For our listeners, it's definitely going to be management and leadership heavy today. And Cemex is a key player in the construction and materials, specializing in ready mix and trucking services, providing essential solutions for building projects. TJ, we're really excited to hear about your leadership journey. When we first talked, I was in awe in the first conversation we had. So really excited about this. And with all that said, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, you guys, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. And I appreciate just being able to have these casual conversations, especially with you, Justin, and Will, like we have in the past. And being able just to have a platform to talk about, how I started in this industry with, little to no guidance to end up being a general manager for a major key player in the construction industry, navigating from, California to, the Midwest all the way out to Florida. So it's good stuff and really, really happy to be here.
Yeah, no, let's dive into that. Let's talk a little bit about your origin story, how it all actually came about, and, talk about the company as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I was thinking back, to my childhood, and I remember kind of first thinking about in elementary school, God, what does TJ want to do? I want to become a farmer. Because I come from a long list of farmers.
Wow. Farmers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my great grandparents, they were true farmers, in California. And specifically in the Napa Valley, and kind of fast forwarding, I wanted to be a farmer, and I remember going to there was a school project, and I brought home the paper and I was telling my dad about it. I was just a kid, and my dad was so disappointed because he grew up in that environment and he knew what it was like. So. I come from a trucking family. My dad was a single parent with 4 kids. I was the youngest, and he was hauling powder and aggregates for ready mix companies up in Northern California. And so, as I grew up, as a teenager, I was changing oil, servicing trucks, and then, as you progress through that, then I want to become a police officer. And then I figured, shoot, I can make just as much money, probably more money, going into the construction field, set and tile. And, thinking about, the San Francisco Bay Area and pinpointing all those money corridors, I became a tile contractor, and, I did a lot of high profile jobs, for famous people. Stuff was in magazines like Better Homes, and Garden. And, there was this outcome of, every time you'd finish a job, you always heard, oh my God, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. And I really honed in on my craftsmanship, really just tried to do things that were, that people would never forget. Whether it was a storefront to a steam shower at someone's mansion, I did stuff for Trey Cool from Green Day,
Wow.
Ricky Henderson, Laurel Bergman from 60 Minutes. So that's who I
That's
was
awesome.
navigating with in my career. So I did that for 10 years. Up until 08, when things got a little bit sideways on us in the economy, and a lot of us in the construction industry had to go look for something different to do. And in my back pocket, I grew up in that trucking family, and so I started working for a trucking company, and dispatching, customer service, and I kind of worked my way through the ranks where I got picked up by a big player in the market, U.S. Concrete, and was managing materials for 19 Bay Area ready mix plants. And then I raised my hand to become a plant manager. And then my progression just started going straight up from there very, very quickly. And went from, plant manager to area manager, navigating San Francisco, Redwood City down to the South Bay, San Jose, going to ops manager, and then navigating into, over the past 17, 18 years, going into a general manager position, working for Cemex. And I will tell you, as a young adult, I was lost. I didn't have a lot of support. I didn't know what I was doing. And then my main focus today is, in this role is honestly helping that next generation that's coming into this industry.
Yeah, I remember when we talked about this originally, and you talked about obviously your upbringing and like how that impacted things. Obviously being the tile, big bad tile contractor in the Bay, effectively, and then trying to find your place again, right? Like, and that's a lot comes with that. A lot of obviously emotions, strength that has to come out of that, all these things. So the thing that I found with you was very much, leading other people that maybe have similar thoughts, similar upbringings, things like that, where you have just really found a way to hey, you can do great things, and I want to help you get there, was very much what just was very electrifying after we had our first conversation. So when I think about that, how do you realize that to be true? How do you get to become a good leader in that regard? How do you lead, other people that came from similar places to you to get the best out of them? How have you done that? How have you found that to be your little magic superpower?
So for myself, I got a couple compounding contributors, which I'd like to share with you guys. And it's truly, you think about my upbringing. My dad was a good dad, okay, but you never heard, hey, you did a great job. Okay, so that you carry that through life. You just do. That's one of the scars. I think that all of us, we all have scars growing up, whether big or small. And that was one of my scars. And so as I navigated in my career, I always looked for that pat on the back. So whether it was set and tile, playing music, playing sold out clubs in the Bay Area, up in Sacramento, all over, to building cars and being on the covers of magazines. I always looked for, that, oh my God, it's beautiful. Okay. So to answer your question, what did I do? Well, I honestly, I when I came into this industry, I tried to blend in. I tried to be relatable to the other person on the other side of the table. So for example, when I was on the ready mix side, as an area manager, for the first time in 25 years, they had never seen a manager pick up a broom and shovel and go work side by side, with laborers in the yard. And that was kind of that, you know, the beginning of the icebreaker. And so I tried to figure out, okay, how can I be genuine? I want to be genuine. I want to be liked. What kind of effect can I have as a leader to get people to follow me? First and foremost, it was trust. It was being able to be relatable. So like, for example, you know, guys would say, hey, when we first saw you, your very first day here, man, we were really scared of you because, you know, you're this big, tall guy, you're a big strapper, you're covered in tattoos, you know. So again, for everybody on the, you know, that's watching here, you know, even down to the hands, it was being relatable, you know. It was, wow, this guy left his title at the door and he's side by side with us, even though he's leading us. So that was something I really tried to hone in on was trust, being relatable.
Wait, time out for a second. Okay. We need the backstory. Okay. Because I think the backstory is missing because I'm going to say it. You were handed a shit show. Okay. From my understanding, you were essentially given the lowest morale region, right, to go manage as, like out of all the locations, this was the lowest morale location. Give us the backstory there. Yeah. Start there. I think this is super crucial and important to help people understand the huge turnaround that happened because you walked in the door. Okay. Yeah. I think it gives a lot of context as to why this is important.
Yeah. So originally when I raised my hand to be a plant manager, I was covering Redwood City and South San Francisco. They were very strategic in the Bay Area. And it was a good crew. And I was there for 3 months. And, you know, one thing that people will say, you know, just kind of on the other side is, you know, who's TJ? Oh my God, that guy's totally nice. He's so nice. And, you know, after 3 months, I remember getting a call from the VPGM at the time. And he said, hey, we're going to relocate you down to the South Bay, 4 ready mix plants. We want you to take it over. And I'm like, Wow. Okay, cool. I mean, the pot just got much bigger. And then people started calling me and, you know, once they heard that I was going to be relocated down there, and they're like, why are they sending TJ to the snake pit? The snake. I mean, literally, this is what I was hearing from batch guys and plant operators, operating engineers. And they're like, why are they sending TJ to the snake pit? And because they knew that I was honestly probably too nice, and they probably didn't think I was going to survive it. And so, you know, I'm excited. I'm just excited just for the opportunity. And I remember my very first day. And again, you're kind of referencing, you know, guys seeing me walk across the yard at the Stockton Avenue plant. And I remember walking into the break room to get to the office. Again, first day, first hour on the job. You know, love the Stockton Avenue plant. And I walked in and there was this big strapper. I mean, this guy was probably my height. I'm 6'6", but he was probably a good 75 pounds. He was ripped. I mean, this guy worked out. He was probably 10 years older than me. And he had like wolf eyes. I mean, he was looking at me like he wanted to fight me. Okay. And this is my very first exposure. There was no introduction. There was no, hey, this is good. This is going to be the new area manager. This is TJ O'Connor. There was none of that. I walk in, this guy's looking at me like he wants to fight me. He reaches into his mouth, pulls out a big wad of chew, throws it on the window and says, what are you going to do about it?
So, that's a statement right there. Jeez.
Okay, so lowest morale in 25 years. Okay, it was a revolving door of managers. They had managers that had no common sense in those prior roles. Kind of giving you some of that backstory. So no common sense. Headhunters, guys hiding literally hiding in the bushes with a camera to jump out and say, gotcha, I got you without your hard hat on, and take a picture and suspend them. These guys were just treated terribly as employees. If you think about what these guys, again, no common sense. And so, okay, day one, that was my very first exposure. His name was Mark. And so
Mark was the leader of the welcome wagon at the Snake Pit, apparently.
He was. Ironically enough, I still hear from Mark to this day, and he'll leave me joke messages on my phone. Make it, like making fun of managers, because we ended up actually being very close friends. So there was a day one, I'm looking straight up, and it's Mount Everest. It's literally Mount Everest. There is no support. Good luck, TJ. Hope you survive it. And my approach was, I need to get these guys to trust me. They need to know that I am ultra understanding. I've got common sense. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. And I will go to the mat at any level within the organization. Because if I have conviction and if what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and let's have some common sense and let's have a conversation about that and talk through that. And unfortunately, that may have been some of my challenges in my growing is because I am willing to challenge. I will challenge whether it's it's someone in my same, in a general manager or even above me. And I'm not proud to say that. I'm not proud of that. But you got to remember the employee factor, the employee part of this and the treatment. So trust, common sense, willing to work with somebody. Hey man, don't forget your hard hat. Hey man, don't forget your gloves. Instead of just going right and chopping this guy's head off. And it took literally 6 months from day one to the 6-month mark. And I'll never forget VP GM at the time, Jeff Davis. This guy was just such a wonderful guy, but he was a slam your hand down on the fist type of manager. He was, this is how we're going to do things. But he was good. He was effective. And I'll never forget, he came across the Stockton Avenue street, because the corporate office was on Stockton Avenue. Directly across the street was Plant One. It was the number one plant, part of the backbone for this ready mix company. And, he came across the street laughing, kind of chuckling, had a big smile on his face. You never knew what you were going to get with this guy. It was either, he might send you down the river. And he came across the street laughing and he said, TJ, I got to hand it to you. You did it. And I'm like, and I was a little naive at the time. I'm like, did what? And he's like, you were the first manager in 25 years to effectively change the morale to the highest it's ever been in the South Bay, to the point where we're getting drivers calling this office saying, please don't move this manager to another region. You had union leaders doing the same thing. Guys that were tough, man. These union leaders were tough. And that was the same thing too. Not only did I have to get the drivers buy-in, get their trust. We're talking 75 Teamster drivers, 10 operating engineers for local 3. And then you also had the union side. You had union leaders that I had to go do the same thing with. Common sense, rebuilding trust. And even those union leaders, some of those guys were tough. They were tough guys. And they'd been around, 30 plus years, and they knew all of the previous skeletons in the closet. And they were doing the same thing. They were calling in to upper management saying, hey man, this guy's great. And me, I'm such a shy, you wouldn't probably, well, I don't know. Again, kind of being transparent with you guys. Listen, I am ultra shy. I've got a layer of being introverted. It takes an awful lot for me to come through the door and turn on that switch. If I'm comfortable with you, you will get this. You will get this persona. So for me, going into that environment, again, looking at Mount Everest in front of me, I really had to dig deep within myself, work on this trust, reestablishing relationships that was really, really deep. And God damn it, I'm proud to say that I'm the one who did it.
That's awesome. Oh my God.
Yeah. Hey, I did have a question because you said it. So lowest morale to basically one of the highest morale, if not the highest in the entire company, right?
Yeah.
How do you measure morale, right? I think this is something that's super important to kind of hear and understand, because sometimes it's a gut check, right? I've done sometimes just asking a question, but how do you measure morale? What are the ways that you can measure morale?
So kind of looking at that South Bay as an example, you'd come in and there would be trash thrown on the ground, dirty countertops, not a lot of pride in. Now think about the dynamics of the workday for an operating engineer teamster in that environment, up in the top 1% pay scale of the nation. Okay, so high pay scale, and you come in, things are filthy. There's not a lot of pride. If you walked through the yard, again, those first month, you would walk through the yard. Guys would literally roll down their window, throw trash out right there in front of you. I mean, right there in front of you, pretty much the middle finger, okay, on blast. And so for me, I'm like, okay, and I would look around. I'm like, man, bathroom is junky. No one's reinvested into the bathroom. No one has reinvested into their break room. Now remember, these guys are 10, 12, 13-hour days on the clock driving ready mix truck. So they're spending half of their day with the company. Okay. What can I do to show them that I care? And so I started by, when I would see trash on the ground, you'd have all the trucks staged in the yard, or 5 a.m. lights are on, the plant's humming, production, and I would let them see me pick up the trash. I wasn't better than anybody else, and that was something that I tried to let them see me do that. Okay, then I started reinvesting into the infrastructure, the break rooms, their bathrooms, saying thank you. Hey man, I really appreciate what you guys did this week, individually or also in a group setting. So weekly tailgate safety meetings, monthly safety meetings. I really appreciate what you guys have done. I know that you guys, so showing that recognition, being genuine too, genuine, heart on my sleeve. That's the type of guy I am. And that you could start to see the morale change. Then you would start to see guys call out other guys. Hey man, wipe down the countertop. You just spilled coffee. Clean it up. So then the sense of pride started to pick up in that 6-month window, and you would effectively start to see morale change. Hey, we're looking for volunteers on Saturday. Boom, everyone was volunteering. You got to the point where guys would do anything for you because you were doing anything for them. And you went from, Mark throwing the chew on the window to guys calling out, hey man, don't spit your sunflower seeds, on the floor or in the sink, clean it up. Guys were policing each other. Now you're always going to have that 5% within the workforce, okay, that are going to boo the cure for cancer. Okay. You're going to have that. I think anywhere you go. But if I can get the other 95% and we're all, imagine a line, okay? Instead of the pyramid where TJ's at the top of the pyramid leading, I always took the straight line approach where all of us are on a straight line together and we're all pushing that ball together. No one's better than someone else. And that was kind of that buy-in. So answering your question, Will, I think that I did a few of those things and I was consistent as a manager that built the morale. So then now you walk into a facility that is getting awards for being clean. Environmentally, guys are policing each other. Guys are volunteering for stuff that they normally wouldn't have done, 6 months ago. And that was the clock. That was literally the clock of progression to see it.
I love hearing how you describe the before and the after, because morale, I think it's very hard to measure, but you get a sense of it based on, we'll call it symptoms, right? You can't see the disease, but you can see the symptoms. If it's bad morale, I'll call it a disease. You can see the symptoms of it. And same thing with good morale. And if you're somewhere in between, right, between those two places, it's really hard to see progress in the middle. but you can see it's like watching paint dry. You know when it's wet, you know when it's dry. The in between is the hard part and figure, seeing if there's actual progress. So was there any one point outside of obviously your VPGM going to you? Was there any large sort of shift or change, like in it, let's say the next day or something like that? All of a sudden you felt like, oh, we are now in a very different place, or was it very gradual?
Yeah, honestly, I can tell you when and where it happened, and I want to use Mark as an example. So think about introduction to Mark, day one in the South Bay, okay? To Mark, Mark was habitually late. He was always 5-10 minutes late. Okay, he was. That's just who he was. And he lived like 15 minutes away. He was probably the guy that lived the closest to the plant, okay? He'd been with the company 25 plus years. No respect for management whatsoever. And Mark was, so I want to use Mark as an example. I remember the day that, I would, once the relationship was established with the drivers and the union leaders, and I would call them and I'm like, hey, I got to write up Mark because, man, this guy's late and he's on the radar with dispatch. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do here. Like I've given this guy so many opportunities. I'm willing to do that. Listen, we don't have to do anything on paper. Again, common sense. Let's try to work through it together as a team instead of being a hammer. Give an employee an opportunity to get better or help them. So I'll never forget. I brought Mark in, and we were sitting in my office. And I said, "Hey, Mark, I gotta write you up. I gotta give you a suspension because we had already started. The verbal warning, the written warning. Now it was at like the 1-day suspension mark, and and again, Mark was a big, scary dude. I mean, he was a big, scary guy, and I'll never forget that when I knew that the tide had changed I remember him looking at me and he's like, you know what, TJ, you're right, man. He's like, this is my fault. This is my fault. You've given me so many opportunities and this is on me. And he's like, I deserve every part of this. The next part is what he said he's like, I have so much respect for you.
Bingo. I
have so much. And I'm trying not to be emotional right now because you think about those things in an employee's life. Again, you think about they're spending call it 12 hours a day with you, 10 to 12 hours a day at work with you. And, you're breaking bread with these people. You have a lot of conversations with these employees. And when he said that, I knew deep down inside that was the pinnacle moment because he was one of those voices. Remember, seniority list, he was like number 2 on the seniority list. The other guy was a guy named Rick Brackett, and another strong voice in that, call it that community of ready mixed drivers. And I knew once I had their trust and they said, it's because we respect you. I knew that I had done something good.
Okay, so if there's anything to take away from this, the driver for morale, right? You measured morale. The driver for morale was the building trust aspect, but it was to gain trust and also respect of essentially, you called them your peers, right? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
So, what we've seen, and this is in effect servant leadership, right? Where when you look at leadership or role structures, the one person that's at the top, the reality is, and then everyone's kind of underneath, the reality is it gets flipped. What you essentially did is you turned the pyramid upside down and all your employees are at the top and you're essentially saying, what can I do for you?
Yes. How can I help you? How can I help you? So think about the dynamic of a driver, and I want to go back. Let's go back 40 years. Okay, I'll use my dad as an example. Like my dad was well respected, call it in the trucking community. He had prima donna Peterbilts. I mean, they were, beautiful trucks. I mean, even guys today, they'll when I cross paths with them, they'll make jokes, not jokes, but they'll say, I remember your dad or your brother on the side of the road, they'd be polishing the tanks on the truck, just so the truck's beautiful. There was a reputation there. There was a, so then I think about like my very first TJ goes to a trucking construction job, and it was a grinding paving job. I'll never forget. Clayton Road, about 1:00 in the morning in Concord, California. And this old timer, who was part of the paving crew, this guy got in my face and was screaming at the top of his lungs, screaming, where are the trucks at? Okay. These drivers got the same treatment 40 years ago to today. 2024, Jeez. They go to a construction job site and there's some cowboy who wants to, posture and try to make these guys feel stupid. And it's a terrible problem in this industry that we have. Okay. So you take that dynamic, that, and I know inside, I think about my dad. And I wouldn't want my dad treated that way. So I made damn sure that I didn't treat those guys out. And it was legit. It was honest. It was heartfelt conversations. It was genuine respect for the position that they held, the experience that they had. I'll be honest with you. A lot of these guys could run circles around the project managers because of their knowledge. It didn't matter that they drove a truck. They had industry knowledge. And that's the other facet too I want to bring up is we didn't do them any justice by not inviting them to the table for their input. And I gave them a platform to come to the table. And that's something I'm proud of because that's what helped me in my journey, day one in the South Bay. I gave them an opportunity to come to the table and I wanted their ideas. I wanted their input because it's a travesty. So think about this. Think about a company that's going to buy 30 brand new Kenworths or Peterbilt Mack trucks, you name it. Pick any flavor that you want the best. And you got a bunch of guys in a room speccing out a truck that they're going to go buy 30. They're going to go spend millions of dollars on. Okay. They're the ones who are going to get the cool jacket, maybe the little miniature truck model that they can put on their shelf. Okay. You guys know that, right? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Did anybody
my son is super into construction? This was like the theme for his birthday, my 2-year-old son. So yes, I'm totally digging this right now.
Okay. Did anybody invite that driver to the room? Did anybody get his input? When we spec the trucks, did we make sure that the back of the cab had the air ride shocks on it? Because I'll tell you what, I've seen that happen where they weren't ordered, and now next thing they know, the guy's complaining about his back hurting. They're like, you guys spent all this money, and you didn't put the $300 shock on it? That's a travesty in our industry where we don't tap into the knowledge that's right there in front of us. So for me, as a manager, as a cog in the wheel for whatever company I'm working for, first and foremost, the company is my focus. I will follow policy and procedure to a T. I'm proud to say that I can do that. I will do that. I will challenge, but I will make sure that the right people are in the room. I will make damn sure that the right people are in the room. So we are making decisions. We're making them feel like they are a part of this company because they're in it. They're such an important part of the wheel. It isn't just a bunch of executives in a room, patting each other on the back for the decisions that they made. They wouldn't be there if it wasn't for that other side of the fence, right? And that's how I feel. And I have strong convictions about that. And I think that's probably maybe sometimes why I get a little bit in trouble because I am mouthy. I can be mouthy when it comes to a challenge because I have a lot of conviction there. I honestly, I think about my dad. I think about my dad. And I think as I've progressed through my career, my dad, before he passed away, we would have conversations. I'd be driving home and, he lived in Oregon at the time before he passed away. And he always got a kick out of, he's like, I can't believe you're telling them what to do, when it was always the other way around. And I know he always got tickled about that, but I always did it on the up and up. I always wanted to make sure that I was accurate in my information. So if I was going to go challenge something, if I was going to go put my neck on the line and challenge, which you got to be careful of. Sometimes people say, don't send it, TJ. Don't send it. Send. Love TJ.
That's a good question, though. Like, so obviously you have an industry that thinks away. They have a mindset that's already in place. It's been that way for 40, however, longer than that maybe, but 40 plus years, right? Mm-hmm. You're coming in and you're saying, like, we need to do things differently. Like in the people that are underneath my leadership and management, we are going to do things differently. We are going to be more of this line or reverse pyramid, however you want to, illustrate that out. How do you push that up, right? Like how do you lead those above you to come to the same realization of like, hey, like that driver or drivers or group of drivers should be in a room when you're deciding on buying new trucks. Like that seems like common sense, right? Like the person that's using the tool should have at least somewhat input on which tool is chosen. Obviously there are other aspects to business that go to things, but like, how do you push it up, right? Obviously you say, I'll push send, but like there's ways to do that have impact, and there's ways to do that get you on your ass, right? Like that's effectively what can happen. So how do you navigate that? Like, hey, I'm going to bat for my guys, but I'm not putting myself in a position where it's like, hey, like I'm the activist, chaining myself to the tree that like I'm gonna get arrested. Like there's not a way around this, even though I'm doing the thing I think is right.
Yeah, so there's a fine line there, For me, I have the utmost respect for the chain of command. I do. I mean, I do. And when it comes to scenarios like that, I think that it's up to the individual who's part of, let's say that's part of that circle that says, hey, you guys, I really think that we should include, let's include, maybe someone senior on the list from the driver pool. Let's get some input there. And honestly, I think if you have someone in the room that is looking out that way, the rest of the people in that circle will say, hey, you're right. I wasn't even thinking of that. So I think sometimes, I think the circle loses sight of the outcome. Because remember, that guy's going to be in that truck for 10 or 12 hours a day, bouncing around, whether it's on a construction site or going down the freeway. And I think they just lose sight of it. And it just takes somebody in the room to raise their hand and say, hey, listen, let's bring in, David and let's get his input on this and see what he thinks. As soon as you have someone that does that, it's usually pretty welcomed. I have not encountered a situation where it has gone sour, where someone has said, no, that's dumb. Like, let's not do that. It's always been well invited, but it's important that there's somebody in the room that just does raise their hand and say, hey, let's bring in, driver A and get their input on this.
So you had at least some engagement from people, even if it was negative, but you need that engagement. If there's no engagement, I would imagine that's actually a lot harder if it's sort of apathy versus negative engagement can be turned around, right? Because it's emotional. There's an emotional aspect to it. And that means that at least someone is willing to communicate with you. No communications, in my opinion, is way worse because then you're in limbo land. And getting someone to be intrinsically motivated to get to the other side of where you're trying to steer the ship, it's really hard to have someone on board if they're like, I'm not doing anything. Like, yes. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to communicate. I'm not going to. Okay. Did you have situations like that?
I have. I've experienced that. In my career, I have definitely experienced that. And, sometimes, when you take an individual like myself who is ultra passionate, who does think about, the positives, the negatives, the impacts on whether it's, for the company or the employee perspective, potential outcomes there. It can, there can be a layer of frustration. But I think as whether if you're in a leadership role, I think that you need to raise your hand. You need to challenge the status quo, and even if that challenge is little, hey, what do you guys think about this? Let's bring in so and so, and because I know the other end of the spectrum. So, for example, let's just say let's take that truck that didn't have the air ride on the back of the cab. Guess what? That guy ended up getting an injury, a workers' comp claim. Now you've got lost time. Good job, leaders. Good job for listening in.
All of a sudden, that $300 doesn't sound so much.
Now you're talking
engaged
hundreds of thousands of dollars, and potentially. And so I think it's important. It's weird. I've been in this industry, 17, 18 years now. And I think the industry is changing. It's changing. You have a new way. So first off, you don't have a lot of people knocking on the door to go drive truck anymore. That's the first facet. We've seen it on the news. It's a nationwide problem. Okay. Now that generation that we are getting, you have to be able to adapt quickly, because you're at the mercy. Now you have a generation that says, hey, I don't want to work 10, 12 hours a day. I want to work 8.5, 9. And you have to find ways to, in my opinion, you have to find ways to be accommodating, because we need them. We need them. It's an industry that unfortunately has been honestly neglected. It's been neglected. I mean, it's been neglected in many, many ways. And unfortunately, if you let's just take a one truck owner operator, let's call it TJ's dad, 1968. He's got one truck, he's a one truck operator. He has a lot of operating costs in the year 2024. His insurance is through the roof. His repair and maintenance, tires, is through the roof. But what's the first cut that we want to do? Well, we want to cut the rate. We want to cut the rate so the driver doesn't make as much, because it helps our bottom line. Hey, I get all that, but don't forget that this guy has high operating costs when you want him to move material from origin to destination. There's a cost involved. There just is. So I think the dynamic there is, we just, us in this industry have to be aware of that. We have to keep it right there in front of us. It has to be at the forefront as part of, the process. And, I can honestly say, over the past couple of years, I can say that the industry, from what I've seen, is adapting rather quickly. They are embracing these changes. They are embracing this, it's a different truck driver today than it was 30 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. But we are adapting. We are figuring it out. And it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, really, when you have engagement with these employees today in 2024, it is positive. It's very, very positive. There's not a lot of negativity there. So there is a breath of fresh air there as well.
You mentioned being introverted earlier. You said, hey, I am very introverted. And when you told me this, I was like, well, that doesn't add up. Like that doesn't, our interactions don't equate to this. And then you had also told me, hey, like I spoke in front of like 600 people. And I'm like, well, that doesn't, again, there's something missing here. But you had mentioned you flip the switch, right? It takes some doing, but like you can flip the switch.
Yeah.
How does that work? How do you take the I am this way, but for this role or for this situation, I need to be this way? How do you make that happen? What's your process?
My process is it's so funny. I'll make myself sick. I literally will. I will make myself sick to my stomach. Because I'm an overthinker. I overthink. I dwell on things. I dwell on outcomes that maybe never even happen. Okay. Okay. So we got to be realistic here. Let's be honest. Okay. So that does happen to me. So, for me, I'll use the Las Vegas, experience, working on a project with some guys across the United States that, through the NRMCA, it was a developing industry leader program that I got nominated to. And, you get paired up with guys that are in similar roles, and you have to do a presentation, at this NRMCA convention. And oh my God, man, I'm so shy. I really am. I'm very shy. And I'm like, you want me to go speak in front of 600 people? Like, what? Like, but I had to perform. Here's the thing. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down. I want you to be proud of me at the end of the day. I do. And that's an honest statement. It's an honest, accurate feeling that I have. And so when I'm in that process, so for example, let's say if I have a rotation where I cover multiple facilities. So there may be a 3-week period where maybe a facility hasn't seen me. And as I approach that gate, the butterflies are hitting. I roll through the gate. The butterflies are going up. I park. I get out. I put on my hard hat, all my PPE. And as soon as I touch that door, boom, light switch comes on, and it's what you're seeing right now. And the problem is, and it's getting worse as I get older. The introvertedness is getting worse. But here's the thing. I recognize it. I don't want it to be a roadblock for myself, for friendship, for my career. So I work through it. I learned something. I was speaking with a coach, a career coach, that I got paired up with, and I've been working with this individual for the past 6 months. And something, she said, what do you want to be remembered for? Like, what's your legacy?
Legacy. Mm-hmm.
What is your legacy? And I told her, I want to be remembered for helping people out. I want to be remembered for, if I can help somebody blossom in their career at any layer within the organization, that will make me feel so good. Okay. So that's one side of the coin. Okay. What's the other side? I want to be contagious. I want
Great
people.
Word.
Great
word.
Yeah.
I want people to feel good. I want people to feel inspired by a short conversation, a long conversation that I just had with them. And I want them to be able to feel like there's no roadblocks in the way. And if I can achieve that in my career, okay, recognizing that I have, I'm not going to call it a problem, but recognizing that I'm extremely introverted. I'm extremely shy. And if I can help somebody navigate those waters in their career and help them blossom, then that fills the cup. That fills the cup of enjoyment every day that I get out and my feet hit the floor from getting out of bed. And I had a conversation yesterday with an individual out in Florida. She reached out to me looking for career advice. Again, being an effective leader, okay? Leave the title at the door. And these people would tell me when I would go there and visit them, they would be like, you're the only person that ever comes up and talks to us. You're the only person that's ever nice to us, like when there's these meetings, and I'm like, and it's honestly, it's just like, I'm just being who I am. I want them to feel good about being able to approach, doesn't matter the title, being approachable, like, hey, I've got a problem, or hey, I've got an idea. What do you think? Being able to bounce that off of them. And this person said to me, she's like, I've had two people now say it to me. They're like, you're the most transparent, you're the most transparent manager I've ever had in my entire career. And I think that's an important key, being transparent and being honest with whether it's a direct report or, anywhere, any layer within the organization, being ultra transparent and being honest. If you don't know, say it. And, so this person said, you have been so supportive and have given me so much guidance. And she's like, no one has ever done that. No one has ever done that anywhere I've worked. And God damn, that's a good feeling. Because let me, if you guys don't mind, let me back up to 1995. Okay. TJ is going to graduate high school in 1995. I had no guidance. I had no support, like literally no support in my career to help steer me. I had to figure it out on my own. I'm not saying, listen, my dad was a good dad. Okay. He was there. He had 4 kids. He was there. Okay. And I have a very small family, aunt, uncle, grandma, a couple cousins. It's very, very small family. And because of that family, they were there, but there was nobody that ever said that gave you guidance or to help you steer the ship. Okay. And so I think about kind of going through my career progression and thinking about, listen, that's something I recognize. And if I can help somebody in any part of their career, that makes me feel good. It helps fill the bucket. It helps kind of smooth over some of those scars, that we incur growing up, going through adulthood, young adulthood into being an adult, having kids and stuff. And you try to, you learn from some of that stuff, and some of it's not our fault, right? It's not our fault, and it's not a blame game either. So I think about that, and honestly, I think about it every day. I get up and, what positive impact can I make in somebody's life that I work with? Whether it's just, hey man, how you doing? Is everything good? Do you need anything from me, to career advice, to personal advice, and I think sometimes it gets lost. It's just been lost, and not everybody's maybe open to that, but being, kind of taking my dynamic, being that shy person and just honestly begging, truly, and this is an honest statement here, truly screaming and no one can hear you, and being on this island by yourself and just for guidance, mentorship. Thinking back to, when I was in Ready Mix and going into, think about, okay, TJ's turned the tides in the South Bay. And, the company came to me and they said, hey, TJ, we want you to start mentoring, these individuals that are coming out of, CAM classes in college. And, we want you to help them. We want you to mentor them. And I started mentoring individuals, and I would be paired up with them for 6 months to a year. And I would help them in their careers. And then, kind of fast forward, I love that environment. I love it. I thrive in it. Because it's something I didn't have growing up. Being a young adult, kind of trying to find, your niche in this world. And I think it's extremely important. I think it's an extremely important cog in the wheel for us as human beings to have some type of mentorship support system. Doesn't matter what your title is. And if I can be remembered, when it's time to retire and hang up and TJ who, if I can be remembered by that, then it's that's my legacy, and that's what I want to be remembered by. I want to be remembered by that.
That is super cool, very insightful. Loved how you described that. Be contagious. I've never heard that one before. I love that. I may adopt a version of that.
Please,
so thank you.
It.
I wrote it down too. I literally wrote it down. I want to be contagious. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I think it applies to every layer. It applies to every layer. I mean, whether it's our family, it's if we're walking through the park with one of our kids, to somebody that we work with, I think it's an extremely important piece that people can thrive in and blossom. We want them to blossom.
Love the insight. Well, speaking of insights, I think we should, I think it's time for our last question because I'm excited for this. Justin?
Throw it at me.
Absolutely. So, TJ, if you could go back 20 years, that's 2004, what advice would you give yourself?
What advice would I give myself? Honestly, I would tell myself, be like a duck and let the water roll off your back. Don't let in all of that noise. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can control. And if you care, I'm a person that cares too much, and it can tear you up. It can genuinely tear you up inside. It can burn you down. I would tell myself, be cognitive of what's going on. Try not to let so much in, and you can still be a caring, understanding person that can lead. But don't let it come inside of you and tear you up, because you can be thrown off the course. And honestly, you can shorten the expiration date of being an effective manager. And I think that that's something that is important, because we want good leadership. And in the construction industry, I don't care what industry it is, whether it's a grocery store or it's a construction industry or to the medical field. If you take that all in, it's going to tear you up. And you got to learn how to, let me give you an example. A direct report came into me and the world was burning down one day. And the world was burning down for her, and she was having a tough day. And I was sitting at my desk, and I was listening, and she's like, and you're sitting there smiling. I said, don't worry about it. We're going to figure this out. Don't worry. We're going to process of elimination. We're going to figure this out. And that is something that I've been teaching all of these managers, so their expiration date gets extended and they don't get burnt out. And that is something that I would honestly, I wish I had that a little bit earlier on, because it would have helped me. Luckily, I was able to pull it out of myself rather quickly. But I would say if that's something that we could help, people coming up in this industry with, extend their runway, help them fill up the bucket faster, learn how to do that, they're gonna thrive and blossom and really go far in this industry.
Love the insight.
Oh my God, yeah. This has been super insightful for me. I wrote down a bunch of notes other than the contagious piece. Wow. What a great, insightful conversation. TJ, if somebody wanted to hear more about you, or talk to you just more about all the awesome ideas and thoughts and leadership abilities you have, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Listen, you guys, I appreciate such an honest, candid conversation. I appreciate you guys providing a platform to do it on, because you guys make a person like me feel warm, and you guys really help open up the book and share a couple of chapters within, TJ's upbringing in life. But yeah, if anybody wanted to contact me, they could reach me on LinkedIn, TJ O'Connor, or they could find me on Instagram, just Tommy from Up the Hill, just a regular guy who builds hot rods after hours. Just Tommy from Up the Hill.
That's awesome. I will throw in that stuff as well as the company information in the show notes. And do you have last parting words before we say our goodbyes?
Be contagious. And don't forget that, and don't lose sight of it. Be contagious.
Love it. Listeners, I hope you do become contagious, and I hope that this has been an impactful conversation for you, because I know for sure it has been for me and for Will. So until next time, adios.
Adios.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
Keep building scale.
scale.